Good evening, everybody. This is Coach Coons along with Coach Porter, and we're here for our weekly podcast Thursday, June 27th, in a balmy night here in Alabama. We could use a little rain, Coach. I know baseball doesn't like to hear rain, but I'll tell you, it's when you know you can't push a shovel in the ground, you're way past due.
Yeah. The ground is dry. We haven't had much rain up here in West Virginia. It's dry. The fields are dry. Luckily, we've played a lot on turf, uh, turf lately, my summer team. So that's been better, but it's dry. So that's both good and bad. But I know my field at my high school needs some water really
Oh,
bad.
I tell you.
It's really bad.
I'll
But
tell you know what's funny with the way this weather is umpires are going through baseballs left and right because when they natural grass when they're hitting they're getting scuffed
yeah,
because it's like hitting pavement almost at this point.
yeah,
Uh, so they're moving a lot of games to artificial
yeah.
and hoping that, but they're going through dozens of baseballs
Dozens of baseballs,
for some
lots of
reason.
baseballs.
What do you
Lots of
want to talk about tonight for the group out there?
Well, a couple different things tonight. First of all, no political debate on this podcast. Baseball is our way to get away from the world's problems. So I know
And
we
we
got
and we always want an audience anyway.
yeah, we always want an
That's
audience
right. That's
anyway.
right.
So you won't hear any political debate with us. You may hear some baseball debate, but no political debate with us. But a couple things come to mind. Uh, you know, we are in the thick of summer baseball, right? And a lot of kids are getting pulled in a lot of different directions. Football, baseball, basketball. There's games, there's recruiting, there's all kinds of stuff. My thing is that first and foremost, I think that players need to keep a really good sound mind. It's very hectic. You have kids that are going to basketball in the morning, football in the afternoon, or vice versa, baseball at night. Kids are getting burned out. I'm not saying any of that's bad. I'm not, kids got to work. I love the commitment level of kids, but at some point, is what's the benefit of all this stuff? So first and foremost, keep your mind right. Your mind's right, your body will follow. Keep your mind right. Make sure you understand your priorities. Make sure you're listening to your body. Okay, make sure you're getting a lot of rest. All right, make sure you're getting practice. So this is also a time of year where kids are playing a lot of games. We're playing in a tournament this weekend and playing a 5 game minimum. But you know that's all great. Make sure you're just not getting at bats. You're still taking BP. You're still working off the tee. You're not just throwing in games either. You're getting your side work in. You're working on your fundamentals with your ground balls. You're staying in the weight room, finding a way to get in the weight room, do your mobility, do your flexibility. Sometimes, as I coach summer baseball and I coach American Legion baseball, which by the way, I love. I'm going to give the American Legion baseball a plug. I love American Legion baseball. I That doesn't mean I dislike travel baseball. I've coached both. When I still coached in college, I coached travel baseball one summer, and that was really cool. But I love the American Legion baseball model. It's more like a college/high school schedule. A lot of teams play 4 games on the weekends. You play a couple singles during the week. You get 40 regular season games in. A lot of times, you play for something. Your games are more consistent and not clustered on the weekends. I think it's a really good model, and I hope American Legion baseball makes a comeback. Once again, that does not mean that I dislike travel baseball. There's a lot of great things about travel baseball. There's positives and negatives to both. But, so anyway, with that being said, a lot of times teams and players get stuck in this game after game after game, and you forget or you get too busy or you get baseball fatigue. And those of you that played the game at a high level understand what baseball fatigue is and the difference between baseball fatigue and like basketball or football. It's a completely different fatigue. I heard Pete Incaviglia one time say, "Go play 162 baseball games at 180 days and come talk to me." It's a completely different tired
Right.
than any other sport, right? So kids get fatigued, mechanics break down, strength breaks down, all that stuff. you're just taking at bats, which you need to get at bats, but you're not working in the cage and working on your fundamentals. So there's got to be a balance. There's got to be a balance. There's got to be a balance with rest. There's got to be a balance with workload. There's got to be a balance in the weight room and mobility and all that stuff to continue to develop. You don't want to regress as a player in the summer because you're playing too many games and not getting the developmental work in. Don't get in a rut where you're just playing games, because on all your off days you have all your other activities to do too. We see that as well, right? So you need to prioritize things that are going to help you get better. You're playing a lot of games in the summer, which is great, but you got to work on your deficiencies too. And sometimes that's tough. Sometimes it's hard in a high school season. Some states that load up on games in a 6-week period, sometimes that's hard too. Um, so keep all that in mind. Make sure that you are continuing to work on the mental game as well, right? Sometimes I think when guys get into college, or I'm sorry, not in college, but they get in the summer ball, they get away from their high school coach or even college summer ball coach, or they get away from their college coach, they get with a summer coach, they let off the gas a little bit mentally, then all of a sudden those bad mental habits that they've had, that they've worked on, whether it's temper, whether it's self-doubt, confidence, all that stuff, it kind of leaks away. Sometimes that happens in the summer. Don't do that. You got to stick with the stuff that's working for you. And all this leads into my next thing. Um, you never know who's watching. Um, we had a college coach, one of my friends, at a game 2 weeks ago. And after the game was over, I looked at my team and I said, "Hey, you realize a college coach just watched your entire game." And they just kind of stare at you. You never know who's watching.
Right.
Get somebody that's going to advocate and help you through the process, like us, and keep plugging away.
I think that's the biggest thing is it starts right in warm ups, how you carry yourself to and from the field. We've talked about that before. I know when I was a college coach, I try to get there early because I want to see, you know, how they carry themselves. I want to see the parents in the stands. I want to see a lot of things, because we're when we're recruiting, we're getting the whole package. How's your work ethic? How's your teammates with you? Those types of things. Uh, and then, I mean, let's face it, we're recruiting your parents too, because you're going to be ours for 4 years, hopefully.
Yes, and we can't undo what you've done as a parent over 18 years,
Correct.
right?
That's
And
right.
that I think maybe the biggest regret I have right now. So I'm always constantly evaluating, what would I do if I got back into college baseball? I've only been out a couple of years. What would I do differently if I got back in? And the first thing I would do in the recruiting process is do a better job of recruiting kids that are going to be culture kids for you. I'm not talking about, the kid that doesn't have talent that you're going to bring it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when I have my A list and B lists of kids, making sure they fit in to the culture better and asking them tough questions in the recruiting process, and making sure that we're not only trying to sell them, but we're also making sure we want them.
Yeah, and it's hard. Parents that are out there listening tonight, I can tell you it's hard. I lived through this. I had a son that played in high school, played to travel, played in college, played professional, and now he's a college coach. And you just got to sit back and enjoy what they do at this point. And you got to understand, and I've seen this out there many times. You as a parent, you're not there to keep them from failing. You're there to pick them up when they do. And
Absolutely.
and that's huge. I mean, they're going to fail. And there's nothing wrong with failing. There's not winning and losing. There's winning and learning.
Yeah.
Okay, because when you lose or you don't do something right or whatever, it's a lesson. It's a lesson. You learn from it. Now, if you compete or continuously do it over and over again, now it becomes a habit, and there's a big difference there. But it's okay while you're training, while you're getting better, if you make a mistake, but learn from it, use it as a lesson. Um, you know, and it was hard. I especially being a coach, and you're sitting there and you're just it's hard to remove yourself. But if you do it, I couldn't be more proud of where my son is right now. So it's a great lesson for
Yeah.
parents out there too.
Yeah. And another good thing about, summer baseball, getting in a situation where you do have a summer coach that runs it like a little college program
Correct.
in terms of the culture and that type of stuff. But you brought up an interesting point, Coach, about, letting your kids fail. One of the best things my parents ever did was the summer I graduated college or high school. Now playing all summer, American Legion baseball, and they they wouldn't let me have a girlfriend, right? Because they said you're not running home every weekend from college, and the college I went to was like 3.5 hours away from home.
Right.
They drove me up there in August. They dropped me off, and basically it was like, you're not coming home till fall break,
Right.
and left. No car, nothing. And I had to figure it out. And I think we talked on Thursday night and Sunday night. That's it.
Oh yeah.
That's it. So it's like you're 200 miles away or however long it was, right? Maybe it's more than that. And like my kid I have no clue what my kid's doing every day.
That's right.
Now it was the first time away from home. That was pretty cool, right? With hanging out with my teammates, and you're in the dorm, you're doing that stuff. But today, you're never that far away.
Right.
You're FaceTiming, you're texting all, blah 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 blah. So I had to learn from my failures. You had to learn from your failures
Yep.
without the safeguard of mom and dad on a cell phone.
Right.
Okay, and I think that's really I think that made me better at that age.
Absolutely.
I mean, I really do. And I had to figure out the game. And when, I couldn't go home and just call, I could call him anytime, don't get me wrong. But
Right.
we
Right.
had scheduled times to talk. But like if we had a rough practice and coach yelled at me, I, I wasn't going to get in my baseball bag after practice in the locker room and
That's
call
right.
him
That's
cell
right.
phone.
And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's okay to continuously fail.
Yeah.
I'm saying if you fail, get picked up, learn, get the lesson from it, and correct it. The issue comes into play, and people say, "Well, my coach said it was okay not to be successful, not to win." Well, you're just going to get beat some days. You're going to
Some
have a
days
better.
the ball's just not going to drop.
It's not going to
But
drop. You're going to have better talent on the other team. Something's going to happen. There's so many outside influence in baseball and softball. You know, you got up the bat and it started raining. Now the bats are slippery. Whatever it is, but you can always get better on the stuff that you need to do. And what we're saying there is, yeah, you can make a mistake. Don't make the same mistake twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and then just kick the dirt, hang your head. No, that's when you need to kick in the pants and say, "Come on, you've been here before. What are you going to do to fix this?"
and a lot of that, coach, is showing up at the ballpark with a winning mindset. See what
Correct.
Coach Coons is saying isn't a hall pass for mediocrity.
Right.
It's a mindset of kind of staying even keel and understanding how hard this game is.
Right.
As coaches, sometimes we talk a lot about energy and focus. Well, there's a fine line in this game. You're not lining up on the kickoff team in a football game, right?
That's right. That's right.
You got to stay really even keel. You got to be motivated. You got to have energy. You got to play hard. You got to have a right. What he's saying is winning, there is no losing. Well, there is losing, but you got to learn from it. And that's perspective. He is not saying here's a hall pass for mediocrity. We don't want that either. But
Correct.
showing up at the ballpark with your mind right, like watch catch play.
Oh yeah.
Watch catch play. So are your infielders moving their feet? Are your catchers doing the right things? Right? Are when we lengthen the throws, are your infielders taking relays? Are your first basemen acting like first basemen? Are your catchers starting with the ball in the mitt so they have to exchange and all
Right.
that good stuff? Are they working on tag plays when they catch? Are they throwing on the run? I mean, all that stuff. How are they warming up? Did they just go through their dynamic warm up and blah blah blah? That shows a lot. When they're done, do they go back to the dugout and just hang out, or they go grab a bat and take 50 dry swings and work on something? Are
Right.
they watching the other pitcher warm up? I mean, you could be in a dugout a couple hundred feet away and you can see if the ball's moving, arm side, glove side. You can see if he's having trouble. You can see what his motion is. You can see what he does out of the stretch.
Yeah.
You can see if he's got a tell. You can see if he tips his pitches to a certain extent. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Does it sink? Does it ride? Blah blah blah. I mean, so getting your mind right, right, and the more people that do that on your team, you're going to have a better team because your culture will turn into a winning culture. And
You know.
like Coach said,
Yeah.
you're going to lose. You're going to strike out. You're going to walk away and go, this is one of the only games you walk away and you're like, we played flawless. We played flawless. We had the bases loaded 3 times, okay, and hit a screaming Mimi ground ball to shortstop, okay, right? And the dude caught it and turned a double play, but I hit it about as hard as I could, or
Right.
we lined out. I remember we were playing at Arkansas Fort Smith one time. Sean Smedley, who's now a manager in the Rays organization, was my catcher. And Sean played for the Rays after he played for me. We were at Arkansas Fort Smith, and we had won 9 in a row. We were 9-0 going into the series. 8-0 going into the series. I think we won the first game of the series. We're 9-0. We come back, have a doubleheader the next day to finish out the series. And one of the games, I think they legit beat us. We walked, you're like, all right, well, game 3, you got a shot to still
Right.
win the series. Everything's tied. And I remember after the game, we played really well. It was frustrating because we'd won 9 in a row. Now all of a sudden we're 9-2. And I remember Smed looks at me and goes, Coach, we had the bases loaded and lined out the third base 2 times. One of those goes, we're up by
That's right.
2 and win. And you walk away and you're like, we pitched it really well. If you're lining out the people, you're hitting it well. If you're getting guys on base, they're having quality at bats at some level. And if you're playing error free bet, you walk away and you just go, you tip your hat and you just say, hey, keep playing like this. We're going to win a lot of games.
You
That's
know,
baseball.
it, which leads you into, are you a competitor? But the bigger picture is culture. Culture. And I'll just give you one quick example, not to belate it. SEC tournament. And then I watched the World Series on TV. University of Tennessee. There was never a time they didn't think they were going to win, ever. Even in the World Series when they were down to Florida State by what was it, 5 or 6, 4, what?
Yeah.
And they scored and won it. Now everybody blames it on the check swing, but they viewed the check swing, so you can't blame Tennessee. It goes to one thing or the other here. But they never thought they were going to win. But as a coach, we're crazy guys, as coaches, former coaches here. You watch different things in the game. Every time the Tennessee pitcher was going to wind up, the whole infield got down in the ready spot, and when he started to let go of the ball, they all hopped at the same time, getting ready to make the next move. And it was in unison, which was I've never seen. Well, I can't say never. There's probably other teams that'll do it, but I've never seen it where it's been in unison, and that team was just ready all the time, and it showed. 60 games, home run records, national champions, SEC champion. I mean, it was a culture, and you're sitting there at this SEC tournament, and these guys come up to bat. The guy, the whole crowd is clapping, in unison. To the Billy Squire song, Amiak, the third baseman, and it's like it's just a culture. Those guys would run through a wall for each other, and if they couldn't do it, they'd pick that guy up, and another guy would try.
Yeah.
And I think that if you have that culture as an individual, and that makes you a competitor, think about what that will do for your team. Because I would rather have a team of average players who would do that than to have a team that has one or two superstars and have to beg them to do it all the time.
Yeah. Because you're going to get a bunch of overachievers. We should all be overachievers no matter what we're doing in life. You're
Exactly.
going to get a bunch of overachievers that really want it, right? And those teams are really fun to be on. And this goes back to, and I tell even high school kids, I'd rather be a role player on a winning team than the best player on a losing team.
Right.
It's much more fun when you win.
Exactly.
It's much more fun when you don't worry about yourself, which is hard, and you worry about the greater good of the team. It's
Exactly.
much more fun.
Exactly.
And
Hey,
that's no different than life and
that
your family. That's no different.
if you can live your sport like that, you're going to be a great, great person when you're done playing.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes. Hey, not to change the subject, and we're getting long on time here, but favorite baseball movie that you've seen? The only
Of
reason I
all
asked,
time,
what's that?
my favorite baseball movie of all time,
Yes.
Major League, the first Major League.
The only reason I asked that before we came on tonight, Angels in the Outfield was on.
Could never get into it.
I know. Well, but then I'm thinking, okay, Field of Dreams, 42, Moneyball. I mean,
There's
if you
some
have,
great ones. For
I'll
Love of
tell
the
you what,
Game, there's a lot, but Major League One is absolutely hysterical.
well,
Some of the best one-liners ever.
anybody out there listening, DM us or email us your favorite baseball movie.
Favorite baseball movie right
Yeah.
now.
And now my second question, which made me think of things even more, softball. Why can't we come up with Major League Softball like they have baseball?
Yeah.
You see these college crowds, and they are just, in lack of a better word, animals in the stands. They are eating this up. They come 3 days early and stay 2 days late for these college softball games.
And
Why can't we have? I know there's pro softball out there, and it gets very little airtime and everything else. And
there was a game on ESPN, I think, yesterday.
yes, but it's a select few
Yeah.
people who are picked for it. Why?
Why can't it? And do it. Hey, do it in late fall, right?
Right.
In the South, in Arizona, Texas,
Almost like spring
Southern
training area.
Alabama, Mississippi, Florida,
Right.
Southern California. Do it down there and televise it every Saturday. It would be great because there are some really, really good players, and they're
Tremendous
fun to
players.
watch.
Tremendous.
And
I
they're
mean,
fun to watch. So
I
skilled, so
you
skilled.
can't, if you're watching the college softball playoffs and you can't get away from the TV.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got pitchers. I saw one game, pitchers were throwing 200 pitches. I mean, they come back the next day and throw 150 more, and they're still snapping the ball. Why can't we do that? We have the WNBA and the NBA. We have this. We have women's professional hockey now. Why can't we set up a system in this country where we have National, American, and Central, or
Yeah,
whatever it is, for softball.
absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
It would be a great thing to do. Give us your opinion on that too. Hey, we're here to help you with schools. We're here to help you handle the rigors of schools. We have contacts all over the United States with coaches and contacts. We'll evaluate you for free. Won't bother you. Won't call you. You know, hound you for business. You fill out our questionnaire on our website. Pop a couple videos on there. We'll evaluate you how we see it at this point. And you're never too young. I had a young man the other day, was 8th grade going into 9th grade, and he said, he literally said, I think I'm too young. We're not going to post everything out there for you in 9th grade, but if you start building it in 9th grade, guess what? 10th and 11th grade is the times,
Yeah.
and that's when you want to have it done. So why rush yourself through it? And the other thing, the cost that we are doing it for, we're doing the same things the big timers are. I mean, big timers in money for a lot less.
Yeah, don't let that fool you. That we are about you, and we know the costs and all that stuff involved with it. Our costs, we are going to beat our competitors, and we're going to give you better customer service.
Absolutely.
End of discussion.
And
So give us a shot.
we're open 24/7 with ourselves.
We're open 24/7. Yep.
That's right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We hope to see you next week. We'll try to advertise it out there when we'll be on Twitter. There I go again, on X. And we hope you enjoyed tonight's podcast. And